Thank you very much. That was your first mistake. Yes, as you said, I read for comic books for now. What's your second page story ties the Indian comic book blog before they canceled? But we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about a certain landmark that is local. It's the Briggs Beneath Trucks. And so before we begin talking about the book, why don't we have the panel introduce themselves?
Okay. Thank you. You want me to start? Keep starting. Okay. Hello, everybody. I'm Mike Spring. I am a Scotia Glenville author. I wrote a story in the Briggs Beneath Trucks. I also have I also have written several other graphic novels that I have on my table, as well as a couple of books about cult classic movies. And that's me. Over to you, Jeff.
Hi, my name is Shane Moore. I am a local artist, writer. I live in Glenville. Okay, today my company is ElectroMagnetic Press. I did the artwork for the story that I wrote in the grid. I also do a book called My Name is Lady. It's also available. It's out there. That's it.
That's the one. That's old school. Hopefully he won't cut it and out.
Yeah.
I'm Douglas Arthur. I'm a cartoonist and publisher. I publish the Briggs Beneath Trucks. I kind of pulled all these guys together to make this happen. I've been drawing comics that have been published since I was in college back in the 80s. And I've been drawing comics since the 70s. Go back even farther. But this was a fun project. It's the 17th book that I put together, and it was. I'm excited to talk about it with the rest of the guys here. So anyway, that's enough for me for now.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Myron Lauzon. I am the cover artist for the Briggs Beneath Trucks, and I also have two stories inside, Bridge Over Time. The very tongue-in-cheek alien page at the very end of the book is mine as well. I self-publish under my imprint, Psychofyre Productions. I've been self-publishing since 2017. Currently in the midst of working on my 28th book in that time frame. Was honored to be asked to be a part of this with Doug and the guys up here. This was such a fun project, and looking forward to talking about it.
I'm John Kelly. I'm a cartoonist and a vet tech. And I did a 5-page story in here. And I was really honored to be a part of this. And I don't know, relatively new to the air. I've probably been here 9 years now. But I met all these guys through shows like this. So that's how I'm looking for this community. I was happy to finally have my mark on it. So.
Very cool. Well, why don't we start from the beginning and have Doug talk about where we got the idea for this project?
Well, the idea, yes, we have a special guest for this. If my wife, Jessica, stand up. She gave me the idea for this book. All the accolades for this project was my wife. A couple years ago, I've been wanting to do an anthology book for a long time. Kind of publish other artists' work other than my own. And I didn't really feel like I was coming up with a good idea that was compelling. So my wife, after 1 week after we had a couple of trucks hit the bridge, she said, "Why don't you do a book about the bridge?" And I honestly had to think about it for a while. Write a book about the bridge. It didn't seem like it was a good idea initially, but the more I thought about it, I was like, you know what? I think this might be fun if we approach it in the right way. And when I kind of put my my pitch together for these guys, they all kind of jumped on it. So I knew we were on to something at that point, because it turned out to be a real blast to kind of put together, and it came together fairly quickly. I think they're all pretty happy with it.
So I don't talk about the different stories in the comic book. What's the start?
Well, we could start from the front and work our way through. So the first story in the book is my story. And you know, I think I didn't choose to put my story first purely out of ego. I chose it because I think it helps set the tone for the rest of the book. Because my story is very tongue in cheek. It kind of tells an alternate history of the bridge, where there's interactions with Andy Warhol and Sylvester Stallone, or not Sylvester, Arnold Schwarzenegger. Stomper, Bully, and Bigfoot, if you remember those trucks. Evil Knievel shows up. It's just kind of a tongue-in-cheek, kind of alternate history of the bridge, which I thought would kind of set the tone for the rest of the book. I didn't give any real restrictions to anybody. I said, come up with what you feel like. You want to just tell a good story and tell a few jokes. I wanted to have something that kind of set the tone for the rest of the book. So my story is very kind of tongue-in-cheek and fun, and it really kind of sets the stage for the rest of the book.
Well, I will add that when I was reading Doug's story for the first time, now I've lived in the capital region for 20 plus years, but I'm not native to the capital region. When I was reading for the first time, and I'm a few pages in, I'm thinking this is like a history of the bridge. And I'm like, oh, I didn't know Commando filmed here, which was, I love that movie. I've never seen the bridge. And then I'm like, turn the page, I'm like, Evil Knievel, I feel like I would have heard that Evil Knievel jumped the bridge. And then I got the part with the giant yada hanging on the bridge. I was like, oh, I get what's happening here. I'm not very smart. So it is kind of a fun, at first you're sort of like, is this fact or fiction? But it is largely fiction. So, but it definitely got me for a couple pages. So well done, sir.
Well,
I also like how you work with Easter egg and Wortham.
oh yes, Dr. Lauzon, yes. I had just read about Eric Powell about Dr. Lauzon. And for those of you who don't know, Dr. Lauzon was back in the 1950s was a famous psychologist who kind of had a crusade against comic books, and that's how the creation of the Comics Code Authority kind of came about. And there was a kind of a creative censorship in a way, self-censorship mostly in the industry. But he was also, as I discovered, he was more than that. He actually did a lot of good things in the community, one of which was offering dental services to underserved communities in New York City and other areas. And that's where I got the idea for it.
Do I follow the questions?
I'm just saying, this is where the joke comes from.
No, I know, but why is a psychologist doing dental work? I feel that concerns me. I don't know that we should be holding them up.
Doctors and doctors.
But
I cannot be the only person concerned that this guy would have a dental license.
he wasn't practicing the dentistry. He put together the clinic.
Oh, okay. I was okay.
He saw the need and
Not concerned.
and found people that could actually do it.
Sure, I'll like to.
Or dental hygiene was one of the contributors to juvenile
In his art.
I trust Dr.
The very first page of my story has a truck that has on the side of it, Dr. Wortham's dental supplies, and then it says we do bridge work. So,
Get it?
yeah. So
9 out of 10 does this.
anyway,
Have a license.
that's where some of that stuff comes from.
Next in the book.
Oh, that would be.
Oh yeah, Sean's story.
All right, so my story is a 5-page black and white story called Public Comment. And What I liked about doing the story was it let me stretch some of my comedic muscles that I haven't gotten to use in a while. It reminded me a lot of the comics that I drew in art school because they were always short stories, they were self-contained. You know, you had to try to establish characters very quickly, try to get people to know who they were within like, you know, 2 conversations or something like that. So I wanted to have, I don't know if anyone here has ever been to a public comment period for anything. I have some videos of them. They look amazing. I wish I was involved in all of them. So I thought it would be great to have just everyone piling into the public municipal building over by Target. Like I specifically drew and I took photos of it and everything. I thought this place is gonna look exactly like this place. You know? Yeah. And the only time I've ever been there was I got a ticket for having a light out. Get prepared for the following day. And I went to the front and I was like, where's the police? And they're like, oh, you have to go out the back. It's weird. Like closet almost where there's a person behind a window and it was very sketchy. But anyway,
Don't look behind the
so I used the rule of 3. I decided I was going to have 3 jokes. I didn't actually know how many pages it was going to end up being until I started drawing it. I didn't draw it until the last week before it was due. I had the idea, but I didn't know what the 3 jokes were going to be yet. I didn't know what the 3 solutions for getting trucks through the bridge safely, you know, in unconventional manners were. I knew that I wanted to have some sort of ramp that shot trucks over it. That was the obvious one. And then I decided that, we should sneak it through with quads.
You know, so a ramp that launches trucks. Even
Yeah.
That's right. So I had my jokes, and then I really wanted to have someone that was so jaded about their job and about listening to people come up with documenting ideas how to fix this thing that's been a problem. I don't know how many years, but
Going back a while, I think mostly when they if they widen the road for more traffic. I'm still kind of new to this area myself. I just moved here 5 years ago, so.
I mean, I live literally within half a mile of the stage. Which is Glenville.
Oh, so maybe a good place to start would have been.
So. Was it? Just a brief history, like the local, there are 2 bridges right next to a traffic circle. They look very similar. One is suitable size for a truck, one is not. And it happens like sometimes 2 times a day that somebody, I'm gonna make it, like they don't.
And the bridge has been nicknamed the can opener because when a truck runs under it, it takes the top off of the trailer and it just scrunches up like a can opener would do. And so that is the bridge that we're referring to. Literally, no joke, the day after we published the comic book, 2 trucks hit the bridge the same day, which was great advertising. It's great for advertising. It's on Facebook. I slide the links to the book into the comments.
Yes, it's a race.
Yes.
Right.
As long as somebody.
That's right. Sorry, were you, I don't want to.
No, I don't, yeah, so I used to draw comics, I've mostly drawn autobiographies comics for the last 15 years since I was out of school, but this allowed me to do some of the more like zany stuff that I like to do and channel like my Looney Tunes fan and stuff like that. So
It turned out very nice to have it in the book.
I guess we're up next then. All right, so this the next story in the book is Mind Chains. It's called The Last Span on Earth. Unlike everyone else at this table, I don't draw. I write. I'm a writer. So I get to draw on some other local talent, and that's where Shane came in. So he drew the story, I wrote the story, and our story is basically kind of a future history of the bridge. The gist of the story basically is that the bridge outlasts everything on the planet. And so this is kind of the story that's told several thousand years in the future of how humankind left Earth and the bridge survived. So it's kind of a parody, unless you pay attention to the world, but mostly a parody. We had a lot of fun with it.
It's like in gosh, one of the things I appreciate about a story that Mike wrote was that it's kind of an anything goes type scenario. Zombies.
Yep.
Aliens.
Yep.
There's even a big flood.
Yeah, well, a little bit of everything.
Tell us a little bit about the creative back and forth between the two people.
Oh, there's none of that. No, I tell him, and he draws it, and if he gives me any lip whatsoever, I get a new artist. That's how that goes.
Then Shane gets out the water bottle and squirts, that's right. Just draw myself.
Would you like I always feel sorry for my artists, so why don't you tell them?
It was a very easy process. I had kind of a rough version, which wasn't that far off.
Right.
And we talked briefly about some ideas that I and drew it. He liked it.
Yeah, I write
Did the finished script, and I did the rest of it.
I write kind of a loose format. Excuse me. It's actually what they used to call Marvel style. The Marvel comics used to use it, where I kind of write the general plot of what I want to see on the page, and then Shane draws it. And then at the end, so when I went back and added all the word balloons and stuff, like I'm picturing it all in my head and I know what to happen. But I also find that as a writer, depending on how Shane draws it, I can tailor my dialogue to sort of fit what's in the pictures more to get the most comedic effect out of it. And so, one example is, this is actually all three of us collaborating. I think Doug, you were the one who spurred him onto it, but there's a kind of a big crowd scene, sort of a bunch of people real small, and I added a dialogue saying, has anyone seen Waldo? A little Where's Waldo reference, and I think Doug was the one who said, Shane, you should draw Waldo in there. So now there's a hidden Waldo. And then, so that's kind of a fun little, maybe they like to collaborate on things.
Something on that page too, so there was a nod to me.
Yes.
So, for those of you that don't know me, I'm the store manager at 58 Glenville, so I'm right. And you might get the somebody. So you're buying groceries from me as you buy your books. So, in this one panel, the sign from Hannaford has been moved over to the bridge and it says Hannaford. because that's Bastion.
Probably the first time I met Myron was at a convention, and very similar. I was like, and we were sat next to each other, we were talking about comics and things like that, and then somebody came over and was talking about Hannaford, and I was like,
They were really good shoppers. By the way, the
We won't hold that against.
they got them walked out, so I'm saying, careful about that. But yeah, that's actually one of my favorite visual tricks he put in there. That people time out whether that was. So nicely done, Shane.
I've done this a little bit.
All right, moving on, we've got Myron is next, Myron's story is next. So, I went a different route than most of the folks in the book, and conversely to Sean being our last person done, I was the first person done, probably a day or two after I did it. That's not the last person done, but that's fair. That's a story for one of us. So, as soon as we talked about the idea, I went home and started going. So, a couple of days later, I started sending pages to everybody, and I'm like, I'm done.
More accurately, what happened was Doug said, "Hey, do you guys want to do an anthology about the brick?" And Myron went, "Here are my pages." That's how it went.
That's what it felt.
And then Doug went, "Itch."
It's fair. I have to be the first one to the table every time I write some stuff. So I took I'm more of a horror writer and artist. That's my genre of most of my stuff. So I took some actual Mohawk-based native mythology and blended into my story and created a reason why the bridge takes the trucks. So there's an actual evil spirit that resides, that was trapped in the hill where the bridge was built, and that hill was meant to be left alone and was for decades and generations as the natives handed it off to the settlers and the settlers handed it off and so on. And then we get into modern times and the bridge company says, here, hold on. And as soon as they opened that hill up and let that spirit out, things started to go badly. So the bridge is going to claim X amount of spirits until it gets enough to release that creature. So mine more along the line of a horror story. But I like to take real bits and pieces of history from the area and blend them into what I did for the overall thought of things. So really fun, had a great time with it. And the banter that we had in our group chat was inspiring everybody else to kind of get working on their things too. So I had fun.
I think a lot of people, I had originally thought of like kind of like an Native American type story. A lot of people think that you got.
That's just why for this stuff.
Yeah, we got there first, we had to ship it years.
I think that's all the stories of those of us who are here. There's 3 additional stories.
I've got one at the end.
And Myron, that's I was getting.
I was going to say, I get going to that.
3 additional stories. Well, hang on, I'll circle back to you. One is by our friend Pete Sefcik, who's local. One is by Section 4 petitions. That's why I asked it. One is by Doug's brother, Rick Arthur, who's also a comic book artist and writer. One is by Rick Parker, who is most well known for writing and drawing Marvel's Beavis and Butthead comic back in the 90s, as well as lettering over 1,200 comic books for Marvel. And then finally, we have an Uncaped story by Myron, which he's going to talk about that.
So I had to do a little humorous piece because everybody else was doing humor and kind of felt like that. So this one is called Intelligent Life. It is literally a 1-page story where aliens kind of pop down to the planet and they're like, oh wow, it's a new planet. There's got to be intelligent life here. Right as a truck has made its way into the bridge, and the gentleman's explaining to the police that just jumped out in front of me. I don't know what happened. The alien said, "Yep, no intelligent life here." It's not like a good words.
So the book was originally funded through Kickstarter. How was it funding a book that has a local focus to a larger audience worldwide?
Terrible. No fun at all.
I think we did have a lot of local support, but surprisingly, we had a lot of support from other parts of the country and even England, Denmark, Germany, we had people from other parts of the world. It turns out that they also have a similar bridge in their community. And so they were kind of drawn to the subject matter. So even though it's kind of Glenville centric, it does resonate, with other people in other communities.
Bridge strikes are universal truth.
Yeah, it seems like pretty much every town or city has a bridge like that. Bless you. That is always being struck. Just I've taken this book to conventions in Vermont, New Jersey, other states, and people are like, "Oh, we have one of those in only in some town I've never heard of." I'm like, "Yeah, I think everyone's got it."
Like, you ever see like children's books that you see at like a grocery store and it'll be like Halloween in West Virginia.
Oh yeah, right.
We should have done it that way.
Right. Fill in the name of your town here.
Where you can put, right, town or state.
The only other thing I want to say about that was that, so I took this, I did a show in Rochester about a month ago.
Yeah.
And people there thought the bridge that he trucked must have been, there's some bridge that's notorious in Syracuse. And what's very funny to me is that when people get talking about their local bridge that he trucks, they are like totally like, no, there's no way yours that bad. I mean, it's very defensive about
Just practice, right?
see some more trucks.
Right.
I mean, is it so bad that like a group of Syracuse artists made it?
Yeah, right. That's what
That's how that happens.
So you have your own comment. You're in.
Syracuse.
I have an interesting story from a recent convention too. I was down in Worcester, and a gentleman came up to my table, and I just got the books in hand from the printer, so I was excited to talk about it because he had picked it up. I'm like, okay, my first chance to pitch this book. And I started to tell him where it was. He goes, oh, I'm familiar. I'm like, okay, I'm sorry. He goes, no, I was one of the guys that worked on the bridge when they built it. And I got a little insight into the story that we didn't get before. So we all sit here and go, why don't we just fix the bridge? What's the problem? You know, like, it's been hit so many times. Wouldn't you think somebody would just put the money into fixing the bridge? Apparently, we should be holding the town of Glenville responsible because they intentionally made that bridge too low because they didn't want truck traffic going down. So therein lies the real reason why the bridge keeps.
And that's worked out really well.
Yeah, it's gone great because nobody uses the GPS they should.
Right.
So the questions to the,
Oh, you didn't finish that story. This man who worked on the bridge, who commiserated about the bridge, did not.
He did not. That's true. He picked it up, had a conversation, put it down, and away he went, just like they did when they built the bridge.
Welcome to being an independent comic book creator. That's what it's like.
so question to the panel. What was it about the project when it made you want to be a part of it? Besides Doug Sloan?
There was a lot of pressure. Go ahead, please.
I knew that we were going to go to Tequila Jalisco dinner. Talk about it.
That might be the most Shane answer I've ever heard.
Story too.
There were some Mexican dinners involved in putting this book together. I think for me, just like for me, I've always loved the idea of doing either an anthology or collaboration with other writers and artists. You know, I like to collaborate as a writer. I always have to collaborate because I can't draw, so I have to hire an artist. But you know, we have a really strong local comics community here in the Capital Region, and trying to get something put together for the longest time is just gets you nowhere. It seems like, but somehow Doug managed to have this with Jessica's idea, have this good idea that, you know, he threw it out there, and I was like, because I also am bad at organizing things. I'm bad at drawing, and there's not much I'm good at, obviously, except for talking and writing. So I was like, I would love to do anthology, but I'll never be the person to get it put together. So as soon as somebody else was doing it, I was like, heck yeah, I am in. I will write that story without a doubt. I just don't make it even the one to put it together, and it worked out well. So that was for me.
Mike and I had actually collaborated on something
That's right.
additional,
Yes.
probably because of this.
Yeah, this did lead real quickly. This did lead to another story that Shane and I did together. I was so happy with what Shane did on this book that when I have a comic book called The 8-Bit Slasher. It's video games meets slasher films meets meta comedy, and it got picked up for distribution by a publisher, but they needed it to be longer. So I had to add some material to it. So I added a 10-page bonus story to it. And so I went right to Shane because I knew that the story I was writing for that was kind of a similar tone to what I wrote for this book. So he was the perfect artist for that. So now we've collaborated twice, and there's more in the future because we work together well. Because he does what I tell him to. Well, that doesn't matter. My other artist lives in the Philippines.
For me, it was an opportunity to work with a really dynamic group of creators that I have a ton of respect for in the room, and to be a part of something larger. I mean, I've been self-publishing and doing every bit of the work since 2017 on every book. On the penciler, on the inker, on the colorist, on the letterer, on the editor, and all of that. So I'm gonna second that. It was nice to have someone else kind of spearhead the production piece of things, and I could just be an artist and a writer for a minute and get that stuff in. But knowing that it was a part of this group, I knew that whatever the level of success, we were going to be proud of what we finished, and it was going to be something that we could, you know, stand on. And I think it got bigger than any of us really thought it was going to, in a very rapid fashion. And I don't, you know, burn all that story up, but it was a good feeling to be a part of something that kind of became a local pop entity.
Yeah.
You should do less. That sounds exhausting. You should try just writing sometime. It's way easier. Just don't know.
But see, I can't. When I write my stories, I draw them all first. I'm not a bit of scripts or anything.
So much.
And then I go back and script them and fill in the blanks, kind of like you do.
Yeah.
After the fact, I call it ass backwards. That's my way to work that. I draw it. I know where I'm going with my story up here, But as I start to draw it, sometimes it changes and I find something that fits or that needs to go in there and it adds flavor to it. So I don't commit to a script. I don't know if I could write one and hand it to someone else. I don't know if I have that.
That's fair.
I do a similar thing, but it gets to the point where between pencils and inks, like I have to have the word because I want to know how much. That's gotta be a
Working composition. Yeah.
I'm not gonna make some grandiose people thing.
Yeah.
It's kind of how I work too. It's like I kind of write and draw at the same time. And balloon placement is kind of part of my sketching. When I'm sketching in my sketchbook and before I bring it over to the page. That's kind of how I work. And I'll have everything written out, and even sometimes when I start doing the final artwork on the board, I might even make revisions to the story then. I've had that happen where, I had a 5-page story that I worked on one time, and I'm like, this really needs another scene. And I wound up adding 2 pages to it, and it worked much better that way. So sometimes you have to kind of be able to, flex yourself a little bit.
I think we had that conversation. You asked us to like 6-page story. I'm like, I'm sorry, it's 8. I couldn't do it in less than 8. I needed to be. I did it in an hour. Yes, that's.
You're still sitting.
Well, like I said, when I introduced myself, I didn't actually know most of these folks very well before I met them on shows like this. But when Doug said that he was wanted to put the anthology together, it's something that I wanted to put the anthology together, but it was not. I never felt like that was something I could do here because I was kind of like still an outsider to most of the comics community. And we're like, hey, I moved here recently. I don't know any of you guys, but let's do an anthology. So when Doug said he was going to do that, I was like, okay, great. And when he said that, when he told me what the idea was, I didn't think it was weird. I mean, I thought it was weird, but not like bad. It was weird, like that's the kind of like very niche subject that someone is going to think is awesome. And yeah, and I live so close to it, like my travel is impacted by the bridge, right? Not the bridge that actually we drew about, but the other bridge. Like I came home from work one day, and most of you know that there was like that giant explosion there. Like I come home down Bruins Road along Mohawk, and I could see the plume of smoke coming up, and I was like, "Holy crap! What is going on?" I called my wife, and like when that thing happened and there was that explosion, like. Our house is literally 3/4 of a mile from that bridge, and she said our house shook when that explosion happened. But anyway,
It was a truck with propane, carrying propane.
Yeah. Somebody tried to take the bridge out, they just couldn't finish.
But as soon as he told me what the anthology was about, and he started having ideas of like, well, let's just throw trucks at this bridge in comedic ways on page. Like that's the kind of story I haven't told because it doesn't happen in my own life a whole lot. So I was super excited about it, and I was excited for an opportunity to kind of like dive into the local community that I almost work in. So yeah.
And the funny thing is, like, when we were doing the Kickstarter, that's when Rick Parker reached out to me. He's like, why don't you have me? I wanted to do a story. My brother and I had befriended him at a show in Massachusetts a couple of years ago. And, he saw the Kickstarter and he's like, he wanted in. And initially he was only going to do 1 page. And he wound up doing 5 pages. So it was really fun to have somebody of his caliber and reputation. We want to be involved in the project. So I can't speak for his motivation other than he wanted to do something fun and different.
Yeah, I think just having the right idea makes a big difference. I think Doug's earlier ideas, Tales of the Glenville, Jiffy Lube, and that one stoplight that never works. None of us really got excited about them, but then when you landed on the bridge idea, it's just like, that's when it really clicked for us,
I still feel like the Jiffy Lube thing. Oh, it's that.
A feel-good moment though for us as this thing has progressed is, I can't tell you how many conversations I personally had with people asking when's the sequel coming. And Doug's like, I'd rather stop. Like, come on, we need to do more.
Yeah, well, so the book's been very successful, and we sell a lot whenever the bridge gets hit, especially. But I always like to mea culpa. We were having one of our first meetings about this, and almost all the creators were there, and Rick at that one. Rick's very enthusiastic. Rick Arthur, Doug's brother. He's like, we got to get this on late night, and we got to get it on, we're gonna sell 1 million copies. And I was like, guys, no one's buying this book, like outside of let's all settle down, right? And then we get the newspaper and everybody sells out of the book and everything. And I was like, well, aren't I the asshole? Sitting there telling everyone, no one's gonna buy this book, and then now everyone's selling out all the time. So
Numbers and what I was going to do.
oh yeah, I was like, I'm sure way less. Yeah. Yeah, I was like, what are you gonna do with all those books 5 years from now when no one's bought them from you? So just full disclosure, I was the jerk. And
Just to be clear, I reprinted because I said every copy.
I had to order more also after one of my shows. So yeah, which is great.
Don't let me try to order things. I'd also like to call out that, Doug did a great interview with the Schenectady Gazette. And we ended up unknowingly on the front page above the photo. I would expect, I went, so I'm working in the grocery store. I go, he's like, yeah, we're gonna do the paper. I picked it up. I'm like, we're on the front page. I bought off the whole stack. It's on the rack, so no one else got them there. I didn't go to market. Too, and I cleaned them up.
But way to make sure no one sees the story, guys. You're buying all that.
But the immediate impact of that was tremendous in terms of our sales. Within the next week I sold out of everything that I had. We were in 5 different retailers that were willing to sell the book for us.
But people were going to those retailers that.
Never bought
Yeah, Josh at Weirdo Comics in Scotia was great. Just between Myron and I think he sold like probably 50 or 60 copies.
And they were all, it was interesting because they weren't comic people. They're a lot of seniors, because, seniors are still reading the newspapers for sure. But I was standing there as I brought in copies and we're talking, Josh and I talked quite quickly. And 5 different customers came in specifically asking for the bridge book. One gentleman bought 5 copies. And he's like, I've never seen any of those people in my life. They've never been in this shop before. It was that notoriety of having this book that was on the front page of the newspaper. So that was just such a tremendous lift for us in terms of our exposure to the book.
And it's good too, because not only for us, but also for Josh, it helped the community, help small business in our community as well. That's kind of part of this whole thing. It's like I wanted to do something that we could all kind of instead of saying the rising tide lifts all boats kind of thing. But I thought it would be fun to have something that we could all appreciate. It's a value.
On a sunny day, I went out and stood next to the bridge and tried to sell comics there, but people just rolled their windows up and drove away. So that didn't work.
You gotta do it with the cards.
They just made it signs.
I don't know if the town would actually give us a permit to film books there on the roadside.
It might get people to stop and might hit the bridge.
That's true.
Probably.
So, what, anything next with this, theme?
Well, I mean, yeah, I think we will probably at some point do a sequel.
Yeah, he's ready.
Yeah, mine is already done. It's gonna
I might have a few ideas already. We had some things kicking around, so I did.
But our next book may or may not be about the bridge. We have another idea that I think would also be a pretty good seller. Not that sales is our only motivation, but it's always nice to, to kind of spark interest in the community, but we're thinking about doing a book about local ghost stories. So
What do you guys think?
you guys like that? Yeah. All right.
I already trademarked the Scotia Cabra. Nobody else.
Damn
it! That's what Shane and I's story is going to be about.
Well, I think everybody is trying to think of like logical ideas. And cryptids are popular, but I don't think Scotia has one, or like.
They do now.
We could, like, every artist can speculate on a different cryptid.
I'm going to do a ghost story about the bridge. I'm just going to have you just make the bridge of our story we already did transparent, and I'll tell the exact same story again. It'll be a ghost bridge.
You just have to go into Photoshop and change the opacity.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's going to be easy. None of the work, all of the profits. Sounds good to me.
Yeah, I mean, as far as working with these guys go, that's, I think, something that'll be in the future, but, I think that may wait a little bit. I've got a few other projects that, I'm working on. Next year is the 50th anniversary of the first comic book I ever drew, as a kid. And my brother and I started drawing comics back in the 70s as kids. And he and I want to put together a collection, kind of to, memorialize, celebrate our beginnings. So we're going to do some new stories. We're going to do some highlights from some of the comics. We still have all the comics we drew when we were kids. So it's going to just kind of be a fun book, especially if you like monster comics. That's kind of what we grew up on Godzilla movies, so it's going to be a lot of fun. I've already started kind of teasing it on social media a little bit. That'll be my personal next project, and then after that, we may work on the sequel book after that. And I'm sure these guys, I know Shane and everybody else has other projects.
Are there any questions from the audience?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Well, I would suggest maybe if you're thinking about a sequel, think about developing George and Andy, the two boyhood friends who stood on the bridge every Saturday afternoon, waiting for a truck to come through. I think that's kind of an interesting, development, whether it's a club or a group or something going to the bridge or taking turns. I don't know.
Are you George or Andy?
I'm the guy that goes to West Texas to see the lights in Marfa. And I've been there 4 times. I've seen them 1.5 times. I was imagining 1/2. Yeah. It's the same thing. Yeah.
Any other questions? Oh, sorry. Step on your toes, Chad. Sorry. Or you're stepping on your toes.
I have an idea for another book. It's like a spin-off. The squirrel with the pickup truck.
The squirrel pickup truck?
The squirrel with the pickup
Oh.
truck. It's kind of like that, except the squirrel gets killed. It's like roadkill.
And just come back call it.
Just Photoshop the bridge.
You draw. There you go. You draw. Yes, over here.
What about the sunny side bridge? Back then it's a.
Oh. It'll never open. Yeah, that's actually pretty, that's pretty good. That bridge is.
Why does the bridge remain?
Yeah.
Oh.
We could call it the bridge that sucks. That it rhymes. And it kind of fits the theme. We could make like a series. I have a question for the audience. Why does your shirt say jerk?
It's actually from the 2010. I'm gonna stand up for a
So, yeah.
I don't know if anyone knows what this is.
I know what jerk is.
Okay. 2 people know this. So there's a cartoon on the show called The Hub. It was very short-lived. It was Dan Versus, and the main character wears this shirt.
Ah, okay.
And he's kind of like this grumpy guy, and gets very mad at everything, kind of like my neighbors are all kind of.
That's a speech. That's like,
Yes.
you're still in a room full of comics. You're taking.
I'm out there from the last uniform.
See that I get. I wrote about the last unicorn in one of my books. You should come see me. I have a last unicorn chapter in my book. I'm not making that up. That's a true story.
Sounds like you round up your time. One last question for this. So, you guys have been working on comments a long time. Was there anything that you learned doing this project, that you plan to use going forward?
I think these guys learned not to invite me to participate in the talk. That was a good lesson for them to learn. So
It's kind of it's something that certainly, I like to be in front of me to lead the charge, and sometimes you have to step back and let someone else go shots and calls, so.
It was really, a challenge for me because and people that know me fairly well personally, I'm not a natural born leader at all. Taking charge of a project like this with all the different, relative egos, and I don't mean that in a bad way, but everybody had their opinions and how things should work, how things should go. Myron turned in this really great cover, which I wound up kind of changing a little bit for what time it showed up on the cover of the book, and so I was like, I was not going to be upset that I kind of modified this a little bit.
it's great. Well, he only changed it because Myron finished it before he knew what the book was.
Well, so an interesting footnote on the cover, there's a character on the cover that never made it into the book. So the Scottish piper that's there above the bridge was a character that actually she created. It was gonna be kind of like a narrator, like a tale story.
It's a blend on the ghost of John Weston Flynn and the Scotia Glenville part mascot, but he was going to be like the crypt keeper. And I got so involved in the story that we're actually doing. Like, back to your original question, like, one thing I learned from this was, I didn't learn it from like time management. I did this, and then immediately Mike's 8-bit slasher project, but I was also in the process of trying to finish like 2 books of my own.
And I said to him, yeah, can those wait? Because I need mine fast.
We didn't
I'm
have,
not even kidding, that's
we
true.
did have a couple of very tasteful conversations. We were like,
What do you need?
we agreed on 2 pages out of 10.
Right.
And I was like, I'll get you those right away.
Yeah.
So it's like, I was.
How about those other 8 pages?
I was working at a pretty fast rate at the point that would normally like have to when you self-publishing you do your own thing.
Yeah, we also realized that doing that targeting guy has a crypto really involved more work. And nobody wants to take it on. Nobody wants to take ownership of it.
If there was ever like,
Who's doing that?
I just didn't want to go out there.
I think what I learned was, and to Doug's credit, you may say he's not a natural leader, but he's very organized and very methodical. And I, as you may have guessed, am very impulsive and quick and rash. And I'm just like, let's do it. Let's just do this thing. Let's just put all the other put it out there. And Doug is like, slow it and let's I have a spreadsheet and things like that. Which I hate all that stuff, but that's why I would never be the guy to organize it. But I think having somebody who is organized to run things, even if you're not, the natural born leader, but somebody who can keep track of stuff and do a good job of putting together was essential.
It's the first time in my life I've been organized.
Well, more organized than me.
Organized in comparison.
As we close up, everybody want to give one last word about the book and where I guess people can find out more from you.
Well, just, if you don't buy the book today, then we're not going to start on. But there are stories that are carrying it. Weirdo Comics in Scotia, Cromwell Comics in Troy, Bear Bird Boutique here in Schenectady. Actually just down the street here on J Street.
Mama Lisa.
Mona Lisa. And Silver Factory, books and Boston Spots. So those are our 5 local, retailers.
If you go to the back door at Hannaford and.
I can look you up. That's not me in the parking lot.
Everybody up here is selling the book here at the convention. We would love if you would buy it today. If you're asking yourself, how do I decide which one of these fine gentlemen do I buy the book for? The only fair way to decide is to buy it. It's the only fair thing, is to come to my table and buy it from me. So I just want to make it clear. She's gonna-
Someone by mistake, the author hasn't signed it.
Yeah,
Everybody will
we
say-
will all sign it for free.
Quick story, I've only sold 2 today to people that I know. And I told them, I pointed out everybody that would sign it. And they both said, thanks. And just went walk straight.
We even have a lovely signature section here on the back page for all the creators to sign it. So-
And that's not enough. We do have limited edition, signed editions
Mhm.
for $10 more.
Signed by all the creators, including the ones who aren't here, and limited to 100
Right,
copies,
that's actually, you know, part of the.
which you can also buy from me.
Of putting it together. Like I actually drove to Maine to get Rick Parker's signature on the book.
Right.
And my brother had since moved to Georgia down near Atlanta. And so I had to actually mail the signature cards off and get the mail back. So, there's a little more involved in getting those together. But we have 100 copies, limited with all of our signatures on them. Because we knew it was gonna be pretty much impossible for all of us to be in the same place at the same time. But I mean, we're all local.
Except for now.
Except for, well, but my brother's not here. So, you know, that was one of my thoughts, was like, let's have a signature card edition, that'll have all the signatures.
Which I also want to say, I thought no one would pay extra for, and I was dead wrong on that too.
Yeah,
So my track record with this book, that without some no big deal.
I try not to take too much of,
No, yeah, no. So no one's gonna pay extra for our signatures. Nobody cares, it's limited edition. Yeah, we've sold a ton of those too, so.
Yeah.
I'm very bad at this.
Or maybe.
I'm good at writing.
Good at talking.
Yes, I'm good at writing. All right.
all right, I think Mike's done.
No.
Yeah, I'm done, but nobody else is saying.
Yeah, once again, I'm Sean Kelly. You can find me on Instagram at Rude Animator. I'm not sure what my next project is actually going to be. I've been kicking the tires on this long format arcade comic for a long time. I haven't been able to nail a storyline yet. So the next thing that I might be putting out is a Ryan Gosling zine. So look for that.
Shut up and take my money. I'm not even kidding.
There's one.